There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Steenhuisen.
Not wanting to interrupt the President before you call him to the podium, Madam Speaker, I wondered if I could address you in terms of Rule 106. On the 11th of November, the Leader of the Opposition wrote a request to the President asking him to make a statement in the House clarifying his stance on the new VIP aircraft. To date, we have not received a response to that letter, and we believe it's in the nation's interest that the President's in the House. We'd wonder whether you'd be able to put to him whether he's prepared to make a statement clarifying his government's stance on that particular matter.
I believe a response to the letter was sent to your offices, but the table office is prepared to send you a copy, another copy of the same letter. The only item on today's order paper is
Madam
questions.
Speaker, would you be able to let us know whether that was a positive response or a negative response?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be able to. The only item on today's order paper is questions addressed to the President. And of course, honorable members may press the talk button on their desks if they wish to ask a supplementary question. The first question has been asked by the Honorable F.Z. Majola, the President.
Thank you. Order, Speaker. Sorry, Mr. President. It's not. Speaker, on a point of order.
What's the point of order?
Can you please provide guidance to the gallery that they are not allowed to partake in the proceedings that are here? Because I think we might have a problem moving forward with them interrupting us. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Dlozi. We would like to always remind our guests that guests sitting in the gallery are welcome to watch the proceedings and to follow, but not to in any way be part of what's going on by clapping, by any other way of participation in the actual substance of what goes on in the House. The Honorable, the President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Government recently introduced a higher education amendment bill in Parliament, which addresses the question of institutional autonomy. The recent student protests over the increase of fees at universities brought the issue into sharp focus. A question has been raised as to what extent government should work more intensively with universities to ensure that the decisions the developmental and transformation goals of the country, how would they be dealing with those? In the meeting I held with university stakeholders on the 23rd October 2015 at the Union Buildings, we all committed to ongoing discussions on institutional autonomy and other related matters of transformation. As announced recently, I'm also establishing a commission to look at higher education transformation, funding, living conditions, and related matters. We need to get the balance right between autonomy and public accountability, while still promoting democratic freedom, which is enshrined in the Constitution. Government invests public resources to ensure that institutions contribute to national development goals, and this has to be met by a degree of accountability to the South African public. While accountability mechanisms exist already, enabling oversight by the Department of Higher Education and Training, it is clear that such mechanisms need to be streamlined and improved. The objectives of the Higher Education Amendment Bill include the following: to ensure alignment and consistency with the administrative law provisions of the Constitution, to address matters pertaining to institutional autonomy, public accountability, and cooperative governance, to create mechanisms for expansion and differentiation of higher education institutions through institutional types, and to clarify the rights of private higher education institutions in compliance with Section 29 of the Constitution. Therefore, the bill provides an opportunity for a discussion on this question of autonomy by affected stakeholders and the public. The Department of Higher Education and Training is also currently in consultation with the sector, developing sets of indicators on financial health, governance, performance, and transformation. The goal is to use these indicators to align the autonomy and diversification of universities with accountability and the effective management of these institutions. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Majola.
Thanks very much, Honorable Speaker. Thanks, Honorable President, for what even the opposition should agree is a very comprehensive reply. Once again, thank you very much for granting our students a 0% increase for the 2016 academic year. Honorable President, would you please clarify whether this new bill would not interfere with academic freedom? I thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The new bill will not interfere with academic freedom. I think, as I've just read it, it talks about balancing the autonomy and the public accountability, whilst at the same time dealing with the issue of transformation, the university's roles. It does not at all interfere. If anything, it enhances that relationship. Thank you.
The Honorable Hlengwa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Mr. President, a few weeks ago, I asked the Deputy President the question I'm about to ask, and hopefully I'm probably going to get a better response from you than I did from him. The 0% increment, had students not gone on the protest, would not have materialized, because the issue of free education was not at all on government's radar. It took a protest for government to actually respond. In the first instance, the 0% increment does not address the immediate concerns of the students, which is fees must fall. It's not that an increase must not be there. So you have made this pronouncement in the absence of any concrete plans, without any vision, and the question is, where does the money come from for all of this? Because at the end of the day, somebody must pay, and ultimately, it is the taxpayer. Secondly, Minister Nzimande then quipped to say students must fall. Is that how government is taking students? A Minister of State so senior to quip that students must fall. I would want to hear the comments of the President in that regard, because those comments were insensitive and devoid of the realities confronting students on the ground. But your 0% increment on the surface of it is a PR exercise in the absence of concrete plans of how education is going to be funded freely. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I don't think I will go to other issues that the Honorable Member has asked, which perhaps relate to his own experience when he was asking the question from the Deputy President. I think the critical point is that we had a meeting with the representatives of the students as well as the representative of the institutions of higher learning. We discussed all the matters that needed to be discussed whilst the strike or the protest was still going on. We, sitting in the same meeting, took very specific decisions. One, that there will be zero rise of fees next year. That was very important because that is what sparked the protest. And then agreed that all other matters raised in the meeting will be gone into by the committee or the commission that I talked about. That I'm in the process of establishing. They will deal with all of those issues that were raised. And the matter of 2016, that matter is being addressed. The issue of zero fees is not going to affect the starting of schools next year. And that matter is being handled, and I think the Minister of Higher Education has said something about that matter. So that matter is being addressed. There will be no rise, indeed, and there will be money to pay. Thank you.
The Honorable Ndlozi.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. President, the idea of institutional autonomy comes into being to protect Section 16(1)(d) of the Constitution, which speaks about academic freedom. The fear why we give institutions institutional autonomy is because we are trying to guarantee and to safeguard the value of academic freedom. What is your view on academic freedom in relation to institutional autonomy? And lastly, because you did not respond properly earlier on, what is your view? How is academic freedom, which is a constitutional right of universities and institutions of higher learning, how will it be balanced with institutional autonomy? And then two, what is the political attitude?
That's a third question, Honorable
It's actually
Member.
the second, Speaker.
No, it's the third
What is
question.
the political attitude? Are you going to give students fee-free universities? Fee-free universities or not? I know there is a commission, but what is the political attitude? Are you going to give students a fee-free university or not?
Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Firstly, the issue of the academic freedom. I think all of us have agreed that you need academic freedom as enshrined in the Constitution. And that freedom is important for education. We have also said there must be an autonomy of the institutions of higher learning so that they can do their work without much interference. What we are saying, because that matter has been raised by the students very strongly, is one of the matters they've raised very strongly. We have said autonomy will be looked at by the Commission, is one of the matters that will be looked at. And I'm sure there will be a very specific recommendation on that matter that we'll have to look at when the Commission reports. If you asked me politically, my own view, there is no autonomy that could be absolute. It's relative. And everything is relative. And that is what must be found within balancing. Because it must be balanced. You can't have an autonomy that is absolute, it's not relative. That's a political point, very important political point. And we are saying, therefore, how do you balance these two? Well, they need to be balanced. That, again, without saying, giving instructions to the Commission, we will hear when they do their work and when they report, what are they saying on those matters. With regard to the matter of free university education, I'm sure you will recall, Honorable Member, that the matter of free education is a policy of the ruling party. That's our policy. Established decades ago. And we have tried to begin to implement it. That is why, at the lower levels, there are schools that are free from fees as part of the implementation of that policy. What we have not done is to say today, from today, the education is free. But we have said that is our goal. We have started the implementation. Poor students or young people from poor families are no longer paying school up to matric. That's part of the implementation of the policy. With regard to the institutions of higher learning, that's a matter we've been looking at. And the department has been looking at it, actually put up a commission or a grouping to deal with the matter, investigate it, come up. There is even a report that has been written on that issue to say, how do we implement this? That report, for an example, will be taken into consideration by the Commission so that it will come up. What I am happy about is that for the first time in the country, everybody agreed with the ANC policy that there must be free education. Wonderful.
The Honorable Kubisa.
Speaker, just on a point of order.
What's the point of order?
Can I rise on? Speaker, according to the list captured by your secretariat of people who are supposed to ask questions, it was Hlengwa, Honorable Hlengwa number 1, Honorable Muiseni Ndlozi number 2, Honorable Floyd Shibambo number 3, Honorable Chewani number 4. And I came there, I saw, I'm not.
No, Honorable Member, take your seat.
You can verify there with your secretary.
Take your seat, Honorable Member. I have the list you are referring to. Please take your seat.
But are we going
Take
to follow,
your seat.
Are we going to follow that list?
Take your seat.
No, I need clarity. I need clarity.
I'm
from-
saying take your seat. There is a long list of EFF names. I am now calling the next party. I'm not going to go to 10 EFF members before I call to another party.
But Speaker,
So
what is the
take your
point-
seat,
what is the
honorable
point-
member.
What is the point of saying? What is the
Take
point?
your seat.
No, but I need clarity from you, Speaker. Can I get clarity from you?
No.
What is the point of you asking us to press buttons if we wish to
Honorable
ask the president
member,
questions?
If
did not
you
say-
have
you
a
did not-
program to disrupt us, you should
But
You should
Speaker,
be very-
But Speaker,
please take a seat.
But Speaker, you need to give us clarity on this question. You then need to clarify us on this question. Can I continue to address you, Speaker? Can I get your indulgence, Speaker?
Honorable,
No, but can I get guidance from you?
my
The
guidance
question-
is
the
that you
question-
should
the
take
que-
your seat.
No, the question that I need to check.
Honorable Kubisa,
Speaker. Speaker. Ms. Speaker. On the point of order.
we are not Honorable Kubisa, Honorable
Yeah,
Shibambu.
but I'm rising on a point of order. which
What's
is
the point
allowed.
of order?
In terms of the procedure that we use in this house, we do not
Honorable
have the leverage to
Shibambu,
skip the names that are there in your screen.
Honorable
We
Shibambu,
have to allow us.
we
to ask
actually
questions.
do it all the time in the
If-
chair.
It's illegal then.
We
If you have
exercise,
been doing illegal things
we
throughout, because
exercise.
what happens is that if we were going to choose party by party, let us just go down to
Honorable
that in the next
Shibambu,
question,
please take your
you
seat.
note all the other parties as well. You don't want him to answer questions. You're skipping us because you
Please
do not want him
take a
to be held
seat.
accountable here.
Take your seat.
You are choosing your ally, the NFP, for what reasons we do not know.
Honorable Kubisa,
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable President, it's clear that the issue of academic freedom is enshrined within the Constitution. And of course, there are those institutions that have used institutional autonomy to entrench discrimination and inequalities. What is your view with regard to those institutions that are entrenching discriminations with regard to gender, language, and access? And then secondly, now that the year is drawing to a close and you have raised the expectations of students with the zero increase, can we get the tangibles, the time frames with regard to as to when students open will get funding, noting the fact that there's always a problem with NSFAS. Students don't get funded. I mean, they don't get the money to pay for their studies as early as they open. Thank you.
Honorable President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Firstly, the issue of the autonomy that has been abused to entrench wrong tendencies is going to be addressed by the Commission. That's some of the issues that will be addressed. And that's why, in the process of the work of the Commission, it will find ways and means of balancing that autonomy. Part of the reason we are saying the autonomy and public accountability should be balanced. It is precisely to deal with those matters. Well, there is evidence that there were institutions that abused the issue of the autonomy. So that matter is going to be addressed by the Commission. With regard to the matter of what happens early next year, I've answered the question by saying the minister has addressed that issue. That money of ensuring that there is zero rise in the fees will not arise because there will be money to pay for that when the schools open early next year. I cannot give the details now, but that matter is being worked on by the department. So that is the answer to your question, Honorable Member.
Honorable members, before I move us to question 20, I just wish to remind you of this rule 1137. It talks about times allotted and time limits. And it is the one dealing with a supplementary question and says a supplementary question may not consist of more than one question. I now come to question number 20, which has been asked by the Honorable Mwango. The Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The Independent Electoral Commission has clear criteria for the selection and recruitment of officers. The primary obligation of electoral officers, as contained in the Electoral Act, is that they must be impartial and exercise their powers and perform their duties independently without fear, favor, or prejudice. The officer must be able to perform his or her functions without favoring one party or candidate over another. The recruitment process is subjected to extensive consultation with political parties before it is approved and used in any elections. The names and details of all officers are distributed to all political parties. Parties that wish to object to the appointment of persons who they believe do not qualify for appointment in view of agreed criteria have an opportunity to do so. Honorable members will recall that when these processes were undertaken in preparation for the last general elections, party liaison committees across the country were convened and all objections raised were conclusively dealt with. No more than 120 objectives were received by the IEC to the approximately 200,000 electoral officers employed in that election. In instances where an objection was upheld, the affected persons were removed from any further consideration or participation in the election. It is clear, therefore, that our country's electoral system has checks and balances which create the necessary conditions for impartiality as well as free and fair elections. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Mwango.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Honorable President. Honorable President, in the interest of free and fair elections, one simply cannot permit the overtly ruling party aligned SADU to oversee voting stations as electoral officers in and around the country. A classic example of such bias and partisanship occurred in Nongom in my area in 2013 during a by-election where a SADU-aligned IEC presiding officer refused to count special votes that were cast. After being taken to court, the votes were then counted, and their inclusion made a material difference to the outcome of that by-election. Do you not agree then, Honorable President, that in order for free and fair elections to take place in 2016 and beyond, that SADU members, whose publicly stated policy is to ensure that the ANC wins the elections, should not be allowed to preside over what should be a politically neutral space? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I'm happy that the Honorable Member says that when the matter arose was attended to and dealt with, because that's what needs to happen. I think in what the member is saying, there was no conclusion or decision that because this member comes from SADU, that happens as an organization to share particular political view, those matters were not factored in the decision, because that kind of matter was not an issue to be looked at. Now, if you ask my views about what should happen, I think you are dealing with the country that has a constitution which gives rights to every individual to be employed in any institution. When they are employed in institutions, there is nothing that says you should check the political affiliation. That the political affiliation do not necessarily make every member of any party to be biased. That's why political people work in different kind of institutions, because it doesn't mean there's no constitution that will deprive other citizens from doing certain duties that can be done by other citizens. Once, if a person is political, is using the political beliefs to interfere, then you take action, because it means those people can't control themselves. Thank you very much, Chair.
The Honorable Filtane.
Honorable President, I put it to you that it is actually naive to expect neutrality from SADU members. We all know that. We can put a straight face here in Parliament, but we'll know exactly what they do. Situation is that evidence has come through that after all the party agents have submitted the figures, it's for the one in charge of the station who releases the figures further. And that's when corruption takes place. They change the figures at that stage because of their affiliation. What steps have you got in mind to obviate this? It's not a perception, it's something that actually happens. What specific steps have you got to obviate this? That's my question. Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. To make people who have a right given to them by the Constitution to be given the opportunity to carry certain tasks, if they are appointed to do so, is not naivety. It's not naive. It's what happens here. If you are saying people who have political views must not do this, it means you will have to import people from outside during the elections, where there's no citizen who does not vote, who have the views to support or whatever. So you can't discriminate against other members. As I said earlier, if you have a case against an individual, deal with that case. You can't generalize and bring a general rule. Not at all. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Shope.
Angibonge Speaker, Mongameli. Ngesonto elidlule la on Thursday, isekela lakho umhlonishwa uCyril Ramaphosa. Simbuza ngenkulumo yakho oyenze lapha ku-ANC Provincial KZN Conference ukuthi uthe i-ANC comes first and South Africa comes later. Wathi ke empendulweni yakhe cha, South Africa comes first and ANC comes later. Manje ke kulolu daba laka IEC Mongameli, njengoba uqoke umngani wakho omdala uGlenn Mashinini owaye personal advisor yakho, ngibona ukuthi vele umqokele ukuthi iANC must come first as you did put it. So my question is the presidency divided on this matter? Because isekela lakho lithe cha, ungahleki Mongameli, this is very serious. Thank you.
Ngiyahleka impela.
Honorable President.
Ngihleka impela, ngeke ngingahleki. Ngizohleka. Okokuqala nje uMashinini akayena umngani wami. uMashinini ube yicolleague emsebenzini, wayeqashwe ngamakhono akhe ukuthi abe umsizi kapresident. Nalapha aqashwe khona manje uqashwe ngamakhono akhe. Phela nje angiqashela angizange ngiqashe mngani wami. Akumina futhi engangi-involve kulolu hlelo ukuthi abantu bathathwa kanjani. Amajaji involved neparlament le balibona igama lakhe, bamkhetha, babona ukuthi unekhono elifanele. Ngingenaphi ke mina lapho? Mina ngabamba iqhaza mase kuthiwe nanka amagama. Bathi abanye nango obonakale namakhono amahle ehamba phambili. Ngangeke ke ngishintshe mina kulokho. Okwesibili asehlukene ngembono epresidency. Into ebesikhuluma namalungu kaKhongolose ngokubaluleka kaKhongolose owawulwela inkululeko ekhulula iSouth Africa ngoba eyithanda, ngoba ihamba phambili. Ngiwatshela ukuthi ANC ibumbane, iANC isebenze izimisele ngawonke amandla ukuthi ithuthukise iSouth Africa izifikela iyakhona, umsebenzi omkhulu kakhulu lo. Vele iANC eyabakhona kuqala ngaphambi kweDemocratic South Africa. Yona yeza kuqala. Yona yalwa, yaba nabantu abagcwala amajele, yaba nabantu abalwayo abafele entabeni. Yafika kuqala. iDemocracy ilethwe iANC. Ingane kaANC. Lokho engangikusho ngithi malungu ningakukhohlwa lokho. Ilapho ke indaba ukukho kwehlukana. Ngikhuluma njengomongameli weANC kumalungu eANC. Ngakhuluma njengomongameli wezwe kubantu baseSouth Africa. Ubeqinisileke iphini beliqinisa impela belukutshela sivumelana ngqo. Asehlukana ndawo. Siyabonga somlomo.
Ilungu elihloniphekile uHosen.
Mr. President, all of these incidents are very worrying, and they pose a very real threat to our democracy. When the appointment of your friend, Mr. Mashinini, which you explained just now, the comments that you made not too long ago about the ANC, and then now, of course, this appointment of SATU members who are going to be actively involved pursuing the interests of the ANC. Does it not worry you, Mr. President, that our democracy and the impartiality and the integrity of the IEC is being eroded to the extent that not too long from today, many opposition political parties are quite likely not to trust the outcome of the elections? Does that not concern you as a president?
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. No, there is no threat to democracy. Instead, our democracy is maturing. In the IEC, we have heard Sheila Cameron, National Party. Nobody complained. Brunette Taliad from DA. Nobody complained. Why didn't you complain? What was happening? Were we eroding democracy? We who understand democracy never complained. Until she resigned on her own, Taliad, very recently. There's nothing wrong. Once that happens, it means democracy is maturing. We have people who can be given a task and not put their political beliefs first, but put what the country wants them to do. That's maturing of democracy. No erosion.
The Honorable,
Agreed, not so.
the Honorable Holomisa.
Honorable.
No, that's fine, that's
yes,
fine.
Thank you so much.
The third question is question number 21, which has been asked by the Honorable Holomisa, Honorable the President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. A number of connectivity programs have been started in schools, health facilities, universities, and government facilities countrywide. And we are happy with the progress that is being made. Through the 2010 FIFA World Cup Legacy Program, 1,650 schools were connected to the internet around the country. Key metropolitan municipalities have extended free internet access to the public. In Pretoria, there are 673 free Wi-Fi locations that are spread across Tshwane CBD. Erasmus, Esteras, Mamelodi, Soshanguve, Garankuwa, Atteridgeville, Pretoria West, and Centurion in Tshwane. By August this year, the city of Cape Town had connected 69 sites with Wi-Fi. The city of Johannesburg has also introduced free Wi-Fi in areas such as Bramfontein and Tladi Park in Soweto, and is promising that more parks will be activated. Over half of all libraries and clinics across Johannesburg's 7 regions now have free Wi-Fi provided by the municipality. By July 2015, the city of eThekwini had connected more than 80 public libraries, and 75 of these have free Wi-Fi. Ekurhuleni Metro has been deploying their fiber network infrastructure in the previous financial year and is currently deploying its own Wi-Fi access infrastructure. The Universal Service and Access Agency of South Africa has connected 212 information communication technology centers and schools across all 9 provinces between 2012 and 2015. These include 71 information and communication technology access centers and 141 schools. The USASA also has special programs to address underserviced rural areas since 2013 to date. The agency has concluded contracts to deploy broadband coverage infrastructure in the following local municipalities: Singa in KwaZulu-Natal, Ratlo in Northwest, Joe Morolong in the Northern Cape, Emalahleni in the Eastern Cape, Matule in Limpopo, and Albert Lutuli in Mpumalanga. In the square kilometer array project near Carnarvon in the Northern Cape, 360 households will be connected with high-speed broadband. There are many other areas that are being connected around the country. The impact of the extensive and comprehensive broadband availability has ensured that regardless of location, citizens can have access to information through mobile technology. The possession of smartphones by millions of South Africans has also ensured that most South Africans enjoy the benefits of accessing information across the country, especially in rural and underdeveloped areas. Connectivity at schools and universities has had significant impact in making available additional information and knowledge for learners and students. Through the work done on the implementation of SA Connect, the projections are that by 2020, all schools, clinics, hospitals, and government facilities will be connected, starting with phase 1, as announced during the SONA 2015. I thank you.
I've been told that Honorable Kwankwa will take the supplementary question on behalf of Honorable Olomisa. Honorable.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Mr. President, would like to find out whether or not government has engaged the private sector, in particular the network, some of the service providers, in this ICT infrastructure rollout program to ensure that they provide it either at a reduced rate or to roll it out free of charge in some rural parts of the country as part of their social responsibility program, because this will ensure that we expedite this program. Because they too stand to benefit once communities are connected and have access to information. Thank you so much.
Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Of course, part of what business does is to engage on this program as business. However, we look at what they do, where they can do, where they feel they can do it. But of course, there could be some areas where the social service, from their point of view, do something by donating certain things in certain schools. So that's how it has been going. As government, we are rolling this one out as a responsibility. They do business. But of course, where there would be a possibility to work together, I don't think there is any problem. But of course, as you say, could we engage them? We normally engage business on every other programs that are there. And if they can participate, fine. But as you know, they are driven by benefits. Wherever they go, they must get profits, so to speak. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Sheen.
Thank you, Speaker. Rural South Africa, thanks to government inertia and bungling, is denied access to internet-based government services in the World Wide Web. This digital exclusion has had a dire impact on opportunities for marginalized communities to better their lives. In Sona, Mr. President, you announced the legally dubious decision that Telkom would be the lead agency for SA Connect. Why one JSE-listed company was chosen above others without the benefit of complying with the PFMA is anyone's guess. It caused an uproar in the ICT sector. This has led to a tortuous and secretive reverse engineering process to ensure the Telkom appointment passes legal muster before the deal is signed. The date for signing this deal keeps receding. Mr. President, why did you decide to not subject the lead agency appointment to an open tender so the best innovative ICT brains could fairly compete and contribute to connecting the nation? Surely this is preferable than shutting them out of the process.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We, in the processes that the honorable member is talking about, we are not shutting out anyone. I think the idea has been, how do you make the country benefit? Now, Telkom is, as you know, a public institution to a very large extent. Now, if you are dealing with it, you are dealing with an institution that is not like your pure private company, so to speak. So if you allow that institution to lead the process, it means you are taking into account some of the citizens who might not have the capacity to handle some of the activities that we are talking about. And therefore, it was important to look at it from that point of view. That is what drove that kind of feeling that this particular company, it's important because it will have an understanding of the demands of the country. That's what informed that kind of feeling or leading up to a conclusion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Lisoma.
Order. On a point of order.
What's the point of order?
You know, Speaker, who must be taken serious. The President answers a question, says absolutely nothing, and then he laughs.
Honorable
It means our
Dlozi.
questions are jokes here.
Honorable Dlozi, please take your seat.
But Speaker, you must protect us.
No, please take your seat.
The President has said absolutely nothing to the question, and then he laughs.
Honorable Dlozi.
This is not Trevor. I've been telling him this is not Trevor Noah's show.
No, I think you must
He
take
comes
the
to
House
laugh
seriously.
at us. He comes to laugh at questions in Parliament.
Honorable
The
Dlozi.
people of South Africa want answers.
Honorable Dlozi. Honorable Lisoma, please proceed.
Thank you, mhlali ngaphambili. Sizibongela. Mongameli wezwe ohloniphekileyo. Uhulumeni kaKhongolose kokunye azibophezelele ukwenza eqhulwini ukuphucula izidingo nqangi ngokulungisa umonakalo owenziwa uhulumeni wencindezelo. Kungabe yini emcabangweni noma ehlelweni likahulumeni eqinisekeni ukulisana nokungalingani ngokwamandla komasipala ekuletheni izidingo nqangi kwezokuxhumana phecelezi ICT infrastructure komasipala abangathathi intweni ikakhulukazi. Ngiyazibongela somlomo.
Honorable President.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Ingqalasizinda le ebhekene nalokho esikhuluma ngakho izofika nakwabanye omasipala. Kusho ukuthi akunakufika kanye kanye ngoba izimo zabo azilingani. njengoba futhi izinto zingafike endaweni zonke ngesikhathi esisodwa. Kusho ukuthi labo ababonakala ukuthi bahlwempu kuzobonakala ukuthi kwenziwani ukuze basizwe ngoba kubalulekile ukuthi nabo bakwazi ukuthi bangene kulomshungu okusebenza ngendlela yanamhlanje. Kusho ukuthi ke noma ingakafiki izofika uhulumeni uzobuka abese uyababonelela. Siyabonga.
The Honorable Shibambu.
Thank you very much, Speaker. You know, it's common cause that one of the biggest role players in the ICT sector in South Africa is MTN. And MTN is reported, not just reported, is confirmed now that they are involved in incidences of tax avoidance in the continent, in Uganda, in Nigeria, in Ghana. They've been given a fine for defying the laws in Nigeria now of 72 billion rands. They're taking money off the continent and take it offshore to tax havens. The last time we asked the question about tax avoidance, you gave a very sorry response. Again, we ask, what do you do with a company whose part of the shareholders is a PIC, which is South African pensioners' money, is avoiding taxes in the continent in terms of base erosion and all those other things? What do we do with such a situation of a company which is owned by pensioners in a sense, but is involved in criminal activities in the entire continent? Can you please give a clearer answer this time, because the last time you waffled?
The Honorable the President.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I don't know how to stop my laughter. Is it hurting? No.
Speaker.
Because generally,
You asked a question, Honorable
this is my life.
Member, can you allow the President to answer your
You are
question?
asking that he must not waffle. You can laugh, you can do
No,
anything, but don't
Honorable
waffle.
Thank you very
Shibambu,
much
please
if I
take
can
your
laugh.
seat.
Thank you very much if I can laugh, because I will always laugh. The issue of avoidance of tax by big companies is the issue that is being discussed globally. Even in the G20 where we were, we discussed this issue to find a common remedy, one of which has been, for an example, to provide information from other countries about companies that come from other countries in other countries. There are many companies that don't pay tax where they make profits. They then go out to pay tax where they are resident. It is now has been agreed that the information should be now automatic. That if a country is operating in South Africa, the company is operating in South Africa, we should get an automatic information as to what are the status to fight the avoidance of tax paying. It has been a trend to all big companies in the world. We are now discussing as a globe how to cap that. The matter was discussed and a decision has been taken that we need to find a system, because there's been no system to stop that, to find a system that will make companies pay tax where they are operating, where they are supposed to pay tax. So I'm sure the company we are referring to will fall under that category. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
We now come to question number 22, which has been asked by the Honorable Maluleke, the Honorable the President.
I shoved my question without realizing. I'm going to answer you, whether I'm going to answer, don't worry. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Government has appointed an interministerial committee led by the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, which is coordinating the response to the water scarcity and drought conditions in the country. Affected government departments announce their respective programs at a media briefing last week, and the public will be kept. They answered the media last week, and the public will be kept informed on a continuous basis. The state of disaster has been declared in the provinces of the Northwest, Limpopo, KwaZulu-Natal, and Free State. These declarations will ensure that support is provided to communities and farmers in the provinces to address the impact of the drought. Provincial governments, departments are also rolling out various interventions programs to respond to the challenge. Government has set aside resources to enable the supply of water tankers for use in the distribution of water to affected areas, borehole drilling, and rehabilitation, water conservation and demand management, and water source augmentations. Support to be provided to farms or farmers includes the purchase and provision of livestock, feed, transportation of feed to the accessible point, and water sources such as drilling of boreholes or drilling of boreholes for animal drinking. The Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs has written to all the mayors in the country to take various actions to respond to the situation. These actions include the introduction of water restrictions and other measures, monitoring adherence to water restrictions, and application of penalties where necessary. Municipalities must also prioritize the repair of water leaks and the promotion of water-efficient technologies such as low-flush toilets, rainwater harvesting, and the use of grey water for irrigation. Uhulumeni uzokwenza konke okusemandleni ukuze abalimi abakhungethwe ilenkinga yesomiso. Ohulumeni
Speaker,
Honorable Ndlozi, you can't, Honorable Member, just get up in the middle of an answer. Please just take your seat.
Because, you know, Speaker,
No, please take your seat, Honorable Ndlozi.
I rise in terms of the rules.
Honorable Ndlozi.
Speaker,
Rule
No.
62.
No, Honorable Ndlozi, take your
Rule
seat.
62 says that a member must refrain from reading his or her
Honorable
speech,
Ndlozi,
but may
take your
refresh
seat.
their memory. The president is reading all the time.
Honorable Ndlozi,
He must
take
not come
your
with
seat.
notes according to the rules.
Speaker,
Take your seat, Honorable
Speaker,
Ndlozi.
order. Order, Speaker. Order, Speaker.
Honorable, can you please just also take your seat and let the president finish his answer? Honorable President, please
Thank you, Honorable
finish your
Speaker.
answer.
Ohulumeni bezifundazwe sebeqalile izinhlelo. Abalimi kumele bathinte iminyango yezolimo ezifundazweni ukuze bathole usizo. This this difficult period requires the cooperation of all in the country. We call on all to save water and adhere to the water restrictions. I thank you.
The Honorable Maluleke.
Thank you, Speaker. President, it becomes evident from your reply that there are two strategies consideration upon which response to drought and water shortages should be premised. The risk reduction and strategies option manage the drought. How will the presidency assist in ensuring that government effectively communicate information on the strategic response to the drought and water shortage so as to empower communities and farmers with workable solutions? I thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The government has been communicating publicly with the communities through the medium of TV, radios, but also it has been meeting communities to communicate the crisis and to say what is government trying to do, what is in turn expected from the population itself, the question of saving water and how to do it. And that is being done by government at all levels. So we are trying our level best to inform the population about what is happening and what they need to do, what the government is doing. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Stein.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. President, this is not a challenge. This is a disaster. So far, 7 of the 9 provinces are severely affected. I listened carefully to the media briefing last week, and I've been following all announcements since last week. The 226 million rand announced by Minister Zokwana will feed 4.7 million cattle for 1 day. Northwest alone would need 2.9 billion rand to feed its animals. This drought could put South Africa in a food security state. Would you agree that we declare this as a national disaster?
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Government has declared the specific areas that are affected, that they are now under the disaster, and measures are being taken to those specific areas. That's what we have done. Because if people say it's not enough, that is their view. But what government has done, because it has been watching and monitoring how the drought has been affecting specific areas and in specific provinces, this is what it has done. It has not declared it as a national disaster. When that moment comes, it will certainly do so. At the moment, it was dealing with the specific areas that needed urgent attention. And that's what it has been doing from the government point of view. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Van der Merwe.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable President, I put to you that the drought is only but a part of our crisis. The drought, of course, is not our government's problem, but we were warned a decade ago that a drought was looming. We were warned even before that a water crisis was looming. Yet your government failed to act. So at the heart of this crisis is a crisis of leadership. As we sit here, the community of Umkanyakudi, the hardest hit community, it's got no water. It's got no water because a company linked to the husband of a KZN MEC received a tender to supply water pipes. Those water pipes have vanished. They're lying in the bush. So my question to you, Honorable President, is there real political will to protect our communities? Because at this stage, it looks like your government only leads when something bleeds. And finally, if there's political will there be political accountability? Will those who fail to act be punished? And maybe starting with the Minister of Water and Sanitation, who failed to spend 2 billion of her budget in the face of this crisis. I thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Yes, there is a political will and government is acting. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Mulder.
Honorable President, to ensure food security and avoid that our farming infrastructure is destroyed, it's very important that government must realize the seriousness and give support. Just one example, sir, in the Botawil area alone, 46 farms at this moment are up for sale. And that's a very important maize area, and that's before the final phase is that. But even more important, sir, is that the support that must reach the farming community speedily. That means within a few months. You know, sir, in the past, it took up to 2 years before support reached the farmers. Then they are bankrupt, they are gone already, with the new upcoming farmers being the first, being in trouble. So I'm asking you, are there time frames to give support within months? Otherwise, the support will be too late. Thank you.
Honorable President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Government has programs to reach areas that are more affected by the drought. And that's what it is doing. It has programs. Now, I can't give detail about specific areas where I don't have information, whether that has been done in that specific area. All I know, whatever areas that have been affected, government has a program to reach those areas. I can't tell you about the time frames because I don't have those details. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We now come to question number 23, which has been asked by the Honorable Mishwe. The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. South Africa strongly believes that all Palestinian parties need to unite in order to effectively negotiate with the State of Israel for a viable and united Palestinian state. In so doing, South Africa supports reconciliation between Fatah and Hamas. We maintain strong relations with both the Israelis and the Palestinians. This is demonstrated by our presence through the South African Embassy in Tel Aviv and the Israeli Embassy in Pretoria. We also have a representative office in Ramallah, and the Palestinians have an embassy in Pretoria. Thus, South Africa has access to both sides through these diplomatic channels. South Africa engages with all the role players to the conflict with the hope that they will engage freely and openly on the future of Palestine. It is for this reason that South Africa is viewed by both sides to be better placed to assist in the peaceful resolution of the conflict. As part of South Africa's contribution to the international diplomatic effort towards the resolution of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, I appointed 2 special envoys to the Middle East peace process, former Minister Dr. Zola Skweyiya and former Deputy Minister Aziz Pahad. Thus far, the special envoys have concluded rounds of consultations that took them to Palestine, Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Iran, Turkey, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and Syria. South Africa supports international efforts aimed at the establishment of a viable Palestinian state existing side by side with Israel within internationally recognized borders based on those existing on the 4th of June 1967 prior to the outbreak of the 1967 Arab-Israeli War, with East Jerusalem as its capital. This Sunday, I will attend the conference of the South African Jewish Board of Deputies, which provides an opportunity for engagement on these matters as South Africa will continue to play a constructive role in the peace process. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Reverend Mishwe.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. President, the Hamas Charter explicitly stipulates in Article 13 that, and I quote, "There is no solution to the Palestinian problem except by jihad. Initiatives, proposals, and international conferences are a waste of time and a farce," close quote. Hamas, which is an Islamist extremist movement committed to extending the global Islamic caliphate through radical violent means to every inch of Israel and beyond, does not share the values of democracy, freedom of religion, and gender equality that the ANC believes in. Like Iran, Hamas has vowed to annihilate the only democratic and Jewish state in the Middle East. Is it not counterproductive and contradiction, Mr. President, for the ANC to sign an agreement with Hamas that has threatened to destroy Israel, while government still claims to believe that Israel has the right to exist within safe and secure borders alongside a Palestinian state? Thank you.
Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I must start first by saying the situation in the Middle East with regard to the Israel and Arabs in general has evolved over a period. There was a time that all Arabs were saying what the honorable member has just read, that Israel must disappear. That time has passed. Now they accept the need for Israel to exist side by side. If there are still those who hold that view, they hold that view, I'm sure they are going to move into a particular position. And it is therefore important, if you take that situation, that the situation has evolved there, it has evolved because many parties in the world engaged them to influence them to reach a particular point. It is therefore very important for the ANC to engage Hamas, precisely to discuss those matters, to influence them, to move to a position that says we accept the view of the existence of two states. Now, when the ANC met with Hamas, they did not present that position to the ANC. They presented a position that accepts that there must be a peaceful solution there. That's what they are saying. Now, I'm not sure what the honorable member was reading, when was it written? But this is what they were saying when they talked to the ANC. And even on the issue of unity among all Palestinians, different groups, they are ready to discuss and have that, and they are ready that we should play a role to find a solution. And the ANC will never stop working on people, whatever views they have, to put logic that will influence them to the correct views and values. That is our job. You can't say because people think differently, then you're going to ignore them. We have influenced many people in this world as the ANC. including the government here of apartheid. We influenced it to negotiations when they were not ready to do so. That's the ANC power. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. President, it appears that you are very well advised by your Minister of Health, because medical experts say that if you want to live a long and healthy life, then you laugh every day. So I think that's why you're laughing. Mr. President, I think you have actually answered some of the questions here, because when Hamas said they want to get rid of Israel, it was as a result of one fact. Despite all the negotiation engagement between various countries and all the agreements that were reached, Israel was not prepared to comply. And when you do that, and exactly what has happened in South Africa, like you said, Mr. President, we discussed, we negotiated, when it failed, let's take up arms. And that is the reason why people take up arms. That's the first thing. I want to commend this government for accepting Hamas to come here, because it then gives a clear picture that you want an objective view of both sides of what is happening. That is finding a peaceful solution. Now, Mr. President, this war in Israel and Palestine is not a religious war between Muslims and Christians and Jews. It is about the Palestinian people's right to exist. That is what it is all about. Now, parties and political parties use this for their own benefit, to grandstand, either to get funding or to are receiving funding already to destabilize these people. This is what it is all about. Mr. President, this meeting that took place with Hamas, can you tell us what you have learned from this meeting and what the information that you have got?
Indeed, time, Honorable
The information
Member.
that you have got, how is it going to help to take it
Your
forward?
time has expired.
Accelerating the process of peace in the Middle East. Thank you.
Honorable President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Just to start where you started, that my laughing is not hurtful, is healthy. Thank you very much for that. I think I agree with you that the issue in the Middle East needs to be looked at from the position of what it is. Because at times people are one-sided. People at times think that Hamas is more extreme. They forget that Israel also is very extreme. And that's why there's been an unending fight. Our job, our duty, all of us who love peace, is to influence both. That they must talk, they must accept that they need to exist. At the beginning of the existence of Israel, the issue of Israel's defending itself was because the Arabs then had a view that it must not be there. It must not exist. And we all said they need to exist. Similar argument must go now to the Palestinians. And you can't move from one extreme to the other. And therefore, Hamas is coming. We had an opportunity to exchange views. We now know what they think. And they do need, as they made the point, to meet as more people as possible so that they can clarify their positions. This is what they want to do, so that people should understand what makes them, for an example, to take particular positions, and what is it that they think should be done, and what help can we give to ensure that we bring the situation to a close. So it is very important. I totally agree with you, Honorable Member. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Mokhalapa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Mr. President, I thought you were out of touch with domestic issues, but certainly you are more out of touch with global issues. But having said that, in light of the complex nature of the Middle East conflict, and you have alluded to the extremism, which requires impartiality, don't you agree that picking a side compromises South Africa's ability to play a credible role in future in assisting to resolve this crisis, which requires us to be objective? And if not, why not, sir?
The Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. No, just to help the Honorable Member, I'm very much in touch with the local issues, more in touch than any other thing. The issue of picking sides, we are not picking sides in the Middle East. We have got a very clear policy that we have got to deal with all sides. We have met Israelis many times, discussed the issues. They themselves have said they believe South Africa has a role to play to help them, to help both sides. They even agreed that meeting the Palestinians is very important for South Africa. We now have met Hamas. We have met other groupings. So we are not choosing side. If that was your impression, I hope it will be corrected. We are meeting both. Even in my initial answer, I said we deal with both. And both sides, by the way, accept that South Africa has a role to play to help them arrive at a conclusion of their conflict. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Kenya.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable President. As we know that the ANC is the champion of reconciliation. And then we know that South Africa mediates for unity in all the countries with conflicts. My question, President, is the continuous building of illegal Israel settlement in the occupied territory a hindrance to achieving a two-state solution? Thank you.
The Honorable President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, definitely, it is a hindrance, and it is, in fact, not helping the process to move forward. And as you know, Israel has done that in defiance of the global view by all countries to say it must not do so. And that's part of what we discuss with Israel. Identify that very kind of a problem, that you can't be saying you want a solution when you actually create the problems. So it's not helping the process, and we believe and hope that at a given time, Israel will retreat from where it is, occupying the Palestinian land. That's why we are saying it ought to go back to the original borders of 1967. That will be an important gesture, showing the preparedness of Israel to live side by side with the Palestinian states. Thank you.
The last question has been asked by the Honorable J.L. Mahlangu. The Honorable, the President.
Sorry, Speaker. Can I take a point of order, please?
What's the point of order?
On a point of privilege. I know we're on to the last question. I just wanted to clarify a point you made earlier on, because it's
I'm coming back to that point.
Will you come back to the point,
Yes.
please, Speaker? Thanks.
The Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. South Africa maintains a strategic partnership with the Republic of India that spans numerous multilateral forums. There also exists between the two countries a dynamic bilateral relationship, which includes consultation and coordination on a wide range of issues. Bilateral relations are structured through two instruments. These are the Foreign Office consultations and the Joint Ministerial Commission. The meetings are held annually and alternate between the two countries. The last Ministerial Commission meeting was held in Durban in May this year, and it was co-chaired by the ministers responsible for foreign affairs in the two countries. The Commission adopted a comprehensive 5-year strategic program for cooperation between the Republic of South Africa and the Republic of India. 5 key priority sectors for enhanced cooperation were identified, namely financing, deep mining, infrastructure development, agro-processing, and the defense sector. There is already good progress that has been made in implementing the decisions and outcomes of the last Commission. Notable progress has been made in cooperation between India and South African mining engineering companies, mining technology firms, and manufacturers of mining equipment. The comprehensive skills development program offered by India is further evidence of the solid cooperation between our two countries. The expansion and further development of this program will provide for more students to benefit from this scholarship opportunity and also focus on addressing South Africa's key priorities. The Commission also launched the subcommittee on science and technology and innovation based on the comprehensive cooperation between South Africa and India in this sector. Importantly, the Joint Commission has set a goal that the value of trade between the two countries should reach $18 billion by the end of this year. Reaching this goal under a difficult global economic environment will require a concerted effort by both countries, especially in removing barriers to trade and in facilitating the ease of doing business between the two countries. A preferential trade agreement is being negotiated between India and the South African Customs Union currently. Once concluded, the agreement will facilitate an increase in the flow of trade between South Africa and India. The Ministerial Commission also reaffirmed cooperation at a multilateral level. Together with India, we are members of India, Brazil, South Africa, called IPSA for short, BRICS, where there's Brazil, South Africa, India, China, basic, the G77 plus China, the non-aligned movement, and the G20. In these forums, we address the developmental challenges of the global South while stressing the critical importance of the reform of the global governance institutions such as the United Nations and international financial institutions. I thank you, Madam Chair.
The Honorable Mahlangu.
Honorable Speaker, thank you. Just to pick up on what the President said
in addressing a meeting during the recent G8 in Turkey. He makes the point that the problems facing the West, some of them emanate from poverty, violence, and insecurity from the other neighboring countries, and that the West must be careful to associate terrorism with migration, and that they should avoid tackling political problems by the use of military. Now, based on the ideology of Ubuntu in South Africa and Ahimsa in case of India, and our resolve to reshape the global agenda, does South Africa see the need to work with Indian government to reform the UN using the shared ideology? I thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, we do share the same values and understanding with regard to the transformation of the United Nations and its institution. In fact, India is very strong on the fact that it also needs to be part of the Security Council, whilst on the other side, from our point of view, we are fighting for Africa to be represented in the Security Council. Africa, which has a population of over 1 billion people, is not represented. We believe is unfair, and therefore we share the same view from the 77 plus China position with India, including the transformation of the financial institutions. We share the same views. We discuss these in different institutions that I mentioned here. And therefore, there is no contradiction between the two countries. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Hill Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President, over here. Mr. President, whether you are speaking in Mumbai at this joint commission, or whether you are speaking in Antalya in Turkey, where you were last week, or whether you are speaking at a provincial conference in KZN, you speak as the President of South Africa. That is not, President, that is not a hat that you can just take on and off as you please. You were elected by this House to put the country first in everything that you do. And the message that you send to civil servants and other politicians around the country is that they can do the same. They can also put the party before the country. So when they're awarding a tender at Medupi, they can favor Chancellor House over another company. When they're building a house for you, they can spend too much money because they're putting the party above the country. So, President, I regard very seriously the non-answer that you gave to the earlier question by the colleague from the EFF. Will you please use this opportunity to correct your statement and reassure this House and the country that in everything that you do, whether as party president or as president of the country, you put our country first?
The Honorable President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Maybe the Honorable member did not hear me because I answered in Zulu. But if you had heard me, you wouldn't be asking the question. I said and emphasized, because the question was, for an example, is there a difference of views in the presidency? I said no. What the deputy president said was absolutely correct. And I explained, if I address the ANC, I am an ANC president, in addition to being a president of the state, elected by the ANC members. Not to the ANC. This House did not elect me to be the president of the ANC. We are making a big mistake. We are making a mud lap of issues, my dear friends. I was elected by the ANC it is the elections of the ANC of me as a president that led me to come to this house. I was elected first by the ANC as a president, and then given a task to lead a campaign as the ANC president. Before I was the state president, and through the democratic process, came to this house as a president of the ANC and stood as a president here. Then I was elected here as a president of the state. That's what it is. You can't conflate the two things. When I speak to the ANC members, I speak to the ANC members. When I speak to the country, I speak to the country. And I make the distinction between the two. Who came first? Was it a democratic country or the ANC? Who came first? Because I'm answering your question directly. Who came first? Who came first? Who came first? The issue is, in the first instance, we pay no attention when the DA meets. We've never asked you a question. We say all funny stuff. This was an ANC meeting discussing ANC policy and ANC issues. Why are you so interested in the ANC matter in the first instance? You love the ANC, I know. You can't stop talking about the ANC. No problem. The point we are making, we're saying the ANC started to fight for a democratic South Africa before it existed in 1912. It fought all this time until it liberated South Africa. And then the Democratic Republic was born. And the ANC is taking South Africa today to its prosperity. No other party can do it except the ANC. So the ANC is very important. That is what I was dealing with, the politics of the ANC. I've answered the question.
Is your house yours as the president of the ANC or president of the country? Are you speaking
Honorable.
I can't hear you.
Order.
There's a point.
Order.
The president isn't answering the question.
Honorable Maimane, I have not given you the floor. I have not given you the floor. Just take your seat.
Can I speak to the president of the ANC?
Take your seat, Honorable Maimane.
No, I want to speak to the president of the ANC.
Please take a seat, Honorable Maimane.
Can the ANC pay for Nkandla then? Please.
Please take a seat, Honorable Maimane.
Can the ANC then finance Nkandla, Speaker?
Honorable Maimane, please, I have not allowed you to take the floor.
No, but us South Africans are waiting.
Honorable Maimane, take your seat.
Which comes first? Is it the president? Is it the ANC or something?
Take your seat, Honorable Maimane.
I'm speaking. Mr. He's not answer the question. Can the president answer the question?
Your member has asked the follow-up question. The president is answering.
President?
You must take your
South
seat.
Africa. He's not answering the question.
Honorable Maimane.
But the president isn't answering.
Order. Order,
Speaker,
honorable members.
Speaker.
Honorable Hill-Lewis, you've asked your follow-up question.
Yes, but with respect,
Honorable
it was not
Hill-Lewis,
answered.
you have asked your follow-up question. Please
It's a really simple
take
question.
a seat.
It's a really simple question. Who does he
Take
put
a seat,
first?
Honorable Hill-Lewis. I don't know if the Honorable the President has finished.
Yes, I'm finished.
The Honorable Singh.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there is certainly no prosperity when it comes to the small and medium enterprises. Now, I'm not saying this. It was something said by the president of the Black Business Council, Mr. Ndaba Nsela, who, when commenting on the agreement reached between India and South Africa and on the need to develop small and medium enterprises, said this: SMMEs are the very lifeblood of South Africa's economic growth. Yet, 80% of them don't survive beyond their first year in business. 80% of them don't survive beyond the first year in business. And I put it to you, Honorable President, that it's largely because of the barriers to entry in our domestic market. There's the legal and regulatory environment that prevents SMMEs from prospering. There's a question of access to markets, accessibility of finance, accessibility to information. Now, despite the fact that we have a Ministry of Small Business Development, which has done virtually nothing, my question, Honorable President, are you satisfied that enough is being done in our country to promote small and medium enterprises so that they can boost the economic growth of this country? Thank you.
Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I know that many people, when they talk about the economy in South Africa, forget historical facts. Part of the reason, for an example, in many countries, you did not need processes and laws to try to empower the small business because there was no racially structured economy that excluded the majority. That was the issue. That's why we've got those kind of many things, and the successes are not that big. There's no country that has the same thing that we have, because they did not have an economy that is racially structured. That's a problem. You can look for the problem elsewhere, but that's a problem. We are trying to deal with that. How do you de-racialize the economy so that all citizens can move? Some people have been already doing business, small business, long time. Others are starting from a start. What are the kind of things you do to quicken that process? That is a problem. And yet we know that small businesses are very crucial to the growth of the economy as well as employment of people. So that is a problem. If you don't look at that, you just come like South Africa is like any other country. You make the big mistake. If the first step, you'll never come to a good conclusion economically because you are looking at it in a wrong way. South Africa was not like any other country in the world. We are unique. And that's a problem we're dealing with in this country. Who controls the economy? How is the economy? You know, for an example, to emphasize your point, you go to the stock exchange. Those that we are talking about, they are only 3%. Despite the laws that we have made, because we are dealing with a very difficult issue to dismantle the racially structured economy. That is the problem. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Khaula.
Mr. President, part of the NIT session of India-South Africa Joint Ministerial Commission of May 2015 was assurance by the Minister of International Relations and Corporations to support India's membership nuclear supplier group. Despite overwhelming evidence that nuclear is not affordable, it will cripple the country's fiscus, and countries such as Germany with nuclear experience have advised against it. But your government is insisting on procurement of nuclear, which is estimated to cost more than 1 trillion, almost equal to the country's total budget. Is government insisting on the nuclear procurement because your friends, the Gupta's parent companies in India, disguised in directorship and holdership in South Africa, including your son Duduzile shares, stand to benefit from the nuclear deal. We know that immediately you announced the 1 trillion nuclear deal, your family friends, the Guptas, they registered a company that is involved in nuclear. Do you intend to continue with corruption? In fact, around the issue of the territory, our understanding as EFF is that the territory of South Africa has always existed before the ANC was born. The ANC was born as a tool to liberate the people. So the territory has long existed before the ANC. So your response is hogwash and indicate political dwarfism.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Firstly, this country has had nuclear historically. Nuclear is not an issue, it's not a new matter in South Africa. Nuclear has been there. The only problem in the past, it was used wrongly for dangerous weapons. We came in as a democratic government and said we'll never use it for dangerous intents. It will be used for helpful, non-militaristic purposes, one of which is to bring energy. We took a very important position in Copenhagen, COP17, and committed this country to move on clean energy. And nuclear is the cleanest energy. And that's why we're pursuing it. And it will solve the problems, even if you put, for an example, other types of clear energy, will not reach the percentage that the nuclear will bring to solve the problem of energy in this country once and for all. And that's the reason why we're pursuing it. It's an important kind of energy that you need. We need to invest so that we can solve the problems of energy in this country. That's the reason why we took that decision. It has nothing to do with all the kind of things the honorable member was talking about. Nothing to do. It has something to do with energy of this country. And that's what it is. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, that concludes questions to the President. I thank the Honorable the President.
Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, I wish to get back to the matter that was raised by the Honorable Steenhuisen at the start of the proceedings. He inquired about a matter to do with the new VIP aircraft, and I said the matter had been responded to. Indeed, I received correspondence in which the leader of the opposition was asking for an urgent question to be scheduled on the matter today. The question would have been addressed to the Minister of Defense and Military Affairs and Military Veterans. I responded to that, and the letter was sent to the Democratic Alliance. The rules do not allow us to do what was being requested in the letter. We suggested in the letter the procedure that could be followed. That is, hold on. That is what I was referring to when I responded to the Honorable Steenhuisen earlier. On further inquiry by the Secretary to the National Assembly, the Honorable Steenhuisen clarified that in this instance, he was referring to a letter to the President. The letter deals with the same matter, except that it was asking for a statement. I would still leave the matter to the two offices to deal with. Today, the business before the House has just been concluded, and that was questions to the President. not a statement
Speaker.
requested by the
Speaker, on
Honorable,
point of order.
Maimane. Please,
But the president
Honorable, no, Honorable
We are asking
Maimane.
for him to clarify.
There are
about
no
the chair.
shortcuts, Honorable
It's not a
Maimane.
shortcut. He refused to respond.
I have ruled on this matter and I
But he
would like you
refused
to
to
take your
respond.
seat, Honorable Maimane.
Why are you protecting
Honorable
the president?
Speaker, on a
Honorable-
point of order, on a point of order, Honorable
What's
Speaker.
a point of order, Honorable Deputy Chief Whip?
Honorable Speaker, in this parliament we have conventions. We consult each other. We have we have structures where we deal issues that will come to the House. This matter was not raised in the NAPC, so we not even in the Chief Whip's forum. I mean, we had an NAPC meeting this morning. It was not raised. We are not going to allow it. The business of this day, of today, is concluded. We are not going to allow the DA to grandstand
Honorable
in this
Maimane,
parliament.
please take your seat.
We are not going to allow the DA to grandstand in this parliament just for cheap
Thank you,
political
Honorable
point,
Chief Whip.
point
Thank
scoring.
you,
No.
Honorable Deputy Chief Whip.
It's the last session of the year,
Honorable
Speaker.
members, honorable members, the House is
You
adjourned.
protect the president. You protecting him.